Back now to our top story and new political fallout for the White House over the events in Benghazi and the White House's comments about them. Republican super PAC American Crossroads has just released a lengthy web ad hitting the president on the changing administration story on these attacks. Here's some of that ad.
You said in the Rose Garden, the day after the attack, it was an act of terror. It was not a spontaneous demonstration. Is that what you're saying?
Please proceed, Governor.
And it goes on from there. My next guests say the president can expect that point to be pressed hard during this Monday's final presidential debate, a debate focused entirely on foreign policy. Pat Caddell is a Fox News contributor and former pollster for President Jimmy Carter, and Doug Schoen, also a Fox News contributor and former pollster for President Clinton. Guys, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much, Megan.
Doug, you partnered with Judith Miller, formerly of the New York Times, now a Fox News contributor, to write a piece that was quite critical of in particular, Candy Crowley, for stepping in and sort of trying to resolve that dispute in favor of the president. And you think it really swung the debate in a meaningful way, and you think Mitt Romney will come out swinging in the next one. Tell us.
Well, first, absolutely Mitt Romney will come out swinging, because I think Pat and I agree that this is the central question facing the two candidates in the next and final foreign policy debate. But bottom line, I thought that Mitt Romney was more than holding his own in the first 50 minutes of the debate. And I thought when Candy Crowley became a fact checker, and ultimately a fact checker who was at the very least on shaky ground, if not just plain wrong, it threw the entire tenor of the debate out. Obama became renewed and vigorous, and an issue which I think he has extreme vulnerability, which is Libya, became something where he became indignant and I think won the issue in the debate. Bottom line, it was an outrageous question of failure, I believe, for the administration, what happened in Libya. And I think they managed to get through the last 20-odd days without a political problem. The issue is, can they get through the next 20 days with the foreign policy debate being the key event?
The campaign, we're told, was thrilled with how that exchange went, Pat, and that they're going to use it in the future.
Well, look, this is going to be a big issue. But let me go back to the debate.
I should say Obama campaign.
That was the worst. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Pat. I just want to clarify. The Obama campaign is thrilled with what happened there.
Oh, they're thrilled with what? No, they're going to eat this issue on Monday, I suspect. And, you know, if we had a press corps that would do any sort of its job, I mean, I said Monday the New York Times terrified me about how much the tank they were in Libya. Today they have a whitewash piece that is a piece of propaganda not fitting of that newspaper, and I'm with Judith would deal with that. But let me just say, Candy Crowley was the worst debate moderator in the history of presidential debates. She interrupted Romney 28 times. She interrupted Obama 8 times, and she went over to help Obama. And that's what continues to happen, as I've said before, because Republicans get in these bipartisan deals and always get rolled. But in any event, look, what happened in Libya is the president is promoting a false narrative. But we saw, I want to go back to a point Doug made about the polling. It was very important. Obama won slightly in the CNN poll because people, 71%, said he exceeded their expectations. That's how bad he was in Denver. Now, I've heard David Axelrod and Wolf Blitzer himself attack their own poll because it shows a third Democrat and a third Republican, as opposed to their enormous gap for Democrats that CNN usually has. The accuracy of the poll is pretty clear, and what it shows us is on all the issues, Romney dominated. Even on foreign policy, it was split, and more importantly on the question of who will do best, who has a vision for the future. 61% said the president didn't, and only 50% said that Romney did. It was split in Romney's case. But on Libya, they set this up. In some ways, this is set up because somebody's got to get to the bottom of it. No reporter seems to want to do the basic question, which is Susan Rice. Who sent Susan Rice out? Come on, folks. It's a no-brainer.
Well, today we have Dianne Feinstein, the Democratic chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, saying specifically for the first time, as we understand it, that it was the DNI director, James Clapper himself, who put out talking points memos to the administration in advance of those appearances. So that could change it. I do want to just get back to this problem of that you mentioned, Pat, about the media and how these debates will go, because I know that there have been allegations of, you know, these moderators rooting for the Democrat. Those are allegations. Now we have a foreign policy debate on Monday night. Just to give you a flavor, so this is going to be moderated by CBS's Bob Schieffer. You know, Katie Couric was with CBS for 5 years as their chief anchor in their nightly news. Listen to her perspective on the Romney, Obama, Crowley exchange when she had Bill O'Reilly on her show yesterday.
Ms. Crowley, with all due respect, blew it. What the president said in the Rose Garden was that Americans will never give in to terrorism. It was a general statement. He did not label the Benghazi attack terrorism.
I think it's sort of subject to interpretation in terms of what he said.
So it's subject to interpretation. Doug, is that not the point? That it's subject to interpretation, and therefore the journalist shouldn't be the one to decide?
Precisely. It's subject to interpretation, and the moderator should moderate, not fact check. And I must tell you, I think Bill O'Reilly was right. I've studied this as Pat has, and it looks pretty clear to me like that was a general comment about terrorism, not a comment about Benghazi, especially given the next 20-odd days and Susan Rice.
So what happens on Monday? Okay, so
sure.
I'll bet you Candy Crowley would like to take that moment back if she could. But what happens with respect to Schieffer on Monday night?
Well, she did walk it back after she did the damage. Remember, she walked back what she did after she did the damage. You know, fine going,
Well,
girl.
so how does this all change the stakes for Bob Schieffer on Monday night, if at all?
I think Bob Schieffer will stand back. I believe he will do his very best to be a fair anchor. The real challenge is Mitt Romney. Can he frame a simple narrative, which is, Mr. President, on the 10th anniversary of 9/11, 4 Americans were killed in a terrorist attack in Benghazi, Libya. We had inadequate security. We had an inadequate response from the administration so far, and we don't have a clear sense as to what you knew and when you knew it. Mr. President, how can you justify playing politics, avoiding intelligence briefings, and not responding?
I mean,
that's the question.
Do you think we're going to get a question, Pat, along the lines of, you know, Mr. President, if you meant what you said at the last debate, which was the September 12th comment was an attempt to declare this a terrorist attack on our country, if that was your meaning, then why did you send Susan Rice out on the talk shows? Why did Jay Carney deny it? Why did you refuse to go that far in interviews with The View and David Letterman? I mean, will he press him like that?
Well, he needs to. The fact is, I think Romney was going to do that, and facing the president face-to-face, frankly, flinched. It's a very tough charge to have to accuse the president of what I think the White House and the campaign staff have made clear was a blatant effort to mislead the American people. Come on, folks, let's all grow up. That statement, as Doug said, was 8 paragraphs later, and it was about general terror. Romney misspoke by not using the word terrorist attack. But then we had Jay Carney out. We had Susan Rice on 5 programs. I don't care that Clapper prepared the talking points. I want to know whether Tom Donlin and David Plouffe were the people who made the decision to send her out with talking points like that. And Mr. Clapper's integrity in the past has been somewhat suspect when it comes to defending the administration.
Megan, can I make
let me say
quickly,
this.
Doug.
The president, let me finish one point.
Sorry, Pat,
the president gave a speech at the UN 6 times apologizing for the tape. Come on, folks.
Go ahead, Doug.
Quick point, Megan. I have done interviews on Sunday programs when I worked for President Clinton. There was never an instance where the White House did not authorize, structure, and otherwise provide talking points to me and other guests. That's how it works.
Well, I mean, Jay Carney, the White House spokesman, was asked after they did come out and say this is a terror attack. Was asked, wait, we haven't heard you say that before, and he said that's because we haven't. I mean, that was on September 20th. He was saying that the White House had not yet declared it a terrorist attack. So, you know, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how the president handles this, and for that matter, how Governor Romney handles this on Monday night. You guys, thank you both so much.
Thank you so much, Megan.